This video will unveil a betting pick on each of Sunday's 13 NFL games. I'm back from my 2-week trip to Aruba, and now I have the pleasure to be back in the cold and snow in Quebec City, Canada. I have worked hard once again to provide you with the best sports betting information, so buckle up, my friend. Let's get started with my NFL picks for Week 11. The first game on Sunday begins at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. It takes place in Spain, where the Commanders will take on the Dolphins. Now, my weekly NFL Lobster Bet, which is what I believe to be the best bet on sides or totals across the board in Week 11, concerns the Washington-Miami game. Since I began sharing this weekly high-confidence play in Week 14 last year, we have racked up a 14-6 record. That corresponds to a superb 70% winning percentage. Last week, I suggested to grab Houston's full game money line. It turned out to be a very exciting victory because they trailed by 19 points through the first 3 quarters of play before staging a furious comeback. In the end, the Texans won 36-29. It was a tight win despite dominating total yardage 412 to 213. Would you like to jump in our winning bandwagon? Just follow the link in the comments below to gain access to the best bet in the NFL for Week 11. The quicker you act, the more likely you are to get similar odds as the ones I am presenting in the PDF document that will be unveiled to you once you sign up. Get my pick on this game now! Alright, let's move on to a nice NFC South battle between the Panthers and the Falcons. I did not hesitate very long before making my pick here. I am definitely siding with Atlanta minus 3.5 points. First of all, we clearly have the revenge factor going our way. Earlier this year, the Falcons were humiliated 30-0 in Carolina. That occurred in Week 3, but I'm sure Atlanta players remember this game vividly. They will be out for blood on Sunday. On one side, we have a team, Carolina, whose record is misleading people into thinking they are better than they truly are. Indeed, they own a 5-4 record, but they are one of the worst clubs according to multiple metrics. For example, they rank 29th in the NFL in terms of net yards per play. On the other hand, the Falcons are 3-6, but they are far better than they appear to be. They currently occupy the 12th spot in the league in net yards per play. Michael Penix has been much better at home than on the road. There has been a marked difference. Also, during the course of his past 4 games, he has tossed 6 TD passes versus 0 interception. Penix, Drake London, and Darnell Mooney won't have trouble moving the ball consistently through the air against the Panthers. Bijan Robinson should also have some success this weekend. Did you know that the Panthers have squandered 157 rushing yards to their opponents during the past 3 weeks on average? It does not bode well for them. Meanwhile, Carolina's offense is likely to struggle. Bryce Young has averaged just 113 passing yards in his past 2 games, while getting no TD pass and 2 interceptions. Atlanta's pass defense is quite good, so they could just stack the line of scrimmage to stop Rico Dowdle and Chuba Hubbard, and they should be fine. So, in short, I am predicting an easy win by the Falcons. That's why I am betting the Falcons laying 3.5 points against Carolina. The Bills are established as 5.5 point favorites against the Bucs. I'm pretty sure that Buffalo will prevail in this game, but will they win by a margin of 6 points or more? I'm going to answer yes, but my confidence level is not very high. That's why this pick is rated as a C. Obviously, the Bills are coming off a dreadful performance in Miami, but they still beat the Chiefs the week before, so you cannot write them off that easily. Their run defense is their number one problem. But the good news is that Bucky Irving is likely to be out again this week. To me, Rachaad White is a lot less explosive than Irving. Since 2023, the Bills own a perfect 9-0 record when playing at home in the 1 p.m. time slot on Sunday. Also, teams from Florida don't enjoy playing in Buffalo in November. Granted, the temperature is not expected to be that low, but it remains quite cold based on Florida standards. Tampa's offense has been slowing down a lot. During the first 6 games of the season, they averaged 27.5 points per game. That average has dropped to 18.3 in the past 3 weeks. With Bucky Irving, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, and Jalen McMillan all out for several games, that finally took a toll on this unit. Last week, Tampa's stout run defense showed some signs of weakness. The Patriots ran the ball 27 times for 166 yards, including a couple of TDs from 55 yards or more. This week, they are up against the second leading rusher in the league, James Cook. If the Bills can establish both the running and passing game, the Bucs are in trouble, especially against a team who will be super motivated to make people forget their awful performance from last week. So, all in all, I have decided to play the Bills minus 5.5 points against the Buccaneers. It never feels comfortable betting the worst team in the NFL, but I will do it anyway. More precisely, I am taking the Tennessee Titans plus 7.5 points at home against Houston. First, the Texans may experience a bit of a letdown after such an emotional victory last week. They came back from a 19-point deficit in the fourth quarter with their backup QB under center against a divisional rival. Davis Mills did a very good job of replacing CJ Stroud, including the winning touchdown via a 14-yard run with 31 seconds to go in the final quarter. Now, Stroud has a shot to return this week, but it remains uncertain. No matter what, I will be backing the Titans in this spot. Not only is Tennessee coming off its bye week, but they have also been at home for 3 straight weeks. In other words, no traveling needed for a while. Moreover, the Titans will be looking to avenge a poor 26-0 defeat at the hands of those same Texans back in Week 4. Even though their season is over, that will add some motivation for Tennessee, especially against a divisional foe. In his first 4 games as a pro, Cam Ward averaged 154 passing yards per match. Since then, that average has increased to 229. Granted, he has only tossed 5 TD passes in 9 games this year, which is disappointing. The good news is that Calvin Ridley remains on track to return from an injury. He is the team's most reliable target. They will need him against a very stingy Houston defense. We have a critical NFC North battle this weekend as the Bears will travel to Minnesota. In this contest, I am supporting the Vikings minus 3 points. As you know, I value the revenge factor a lot. But that does not mean that I am following it at all times. In this case, the Bears suffered a heartbreaking 27-24 loss earlier this year against Minnesota. But I will still bet the Vikings this Sunday. The Bears are overrated by the betting market right now. Their 6-3 record is masking fairly poor metrics. In fact, they are 23rd in net yards per play this season. They barely beat bad teams on many occasions. Did you know that their 6 victories occurred against teams whose combined record is 15-41-1? That's a 26% winning percentage. Caleb Williams remains quite inconsistent. He has obtained a completion rate below 60% in 5 of his last 6 games. Also, I am not convinced he can do a good job on the road. Last year, he presented an awful 1-7 record as the visiting team. This year, the club is 3-2, but they won by a single point in Vegas, by a single point in Washington, and by 5 points in Cincinnati. Sure, the Vikings also have issues, but they will be at home in front of a very loud crowd. Their defense is a lot better than Chicago's, and the Vikings have a great group of wide receivers led by Justin Jefferson. Also, unlike Chicago, Minnesota has had a tough schedule lately. Since their bye, they have squared off against the Eagles, the Chargers, the Lions, and the Ravens. They will be well prepared for this match, so I will roll with the Vikings -3. Jameis Winston gets the nod for the Giants following Jackson Dart's concussion. Winston is fun to watch, but he tends to turn the ball over often. Since 2022, he has thrown 19 TD passes compared to 20 interceptions. That's a poor ratio. That's one of the reasons why I have decided to go with the Packers -6.5 at MetLife Stadium this weekend. Dart is the only reason why the Giants have looked decent at times. He could hurt defenses both with his arm and his legs. Now that Dart has been ruled out, you cannot expect great things from this squad. Some people will argue that the G-Men might benefit from a boost after the head coaching change. Maybe, but I'm not buying it here. The underlying metrics still suggest that the Packers are a very strong team. Sure, they have not looked great in recent times, especially their offense that has scored only 7 points last week against Philadelphia and 13 against the Panthers. But I truly believe that this Giants defense is what Jordan Love and company need to get back on track. They will put the extra effort to score a boatload of points. I am also aware of the fact that Green Bay loses 1 day of preparation after playing last Monday. And they could be looking ahead to 3 straight divisional matchups against the Vikings, the Lions, and the Bears. But given their current 2-game losing skid, I don't believe the Packers will look past the Giants. In fact, I expect the team from the frozen tundra to destroy the G-Men. I am taking Matt LaFleur's squad to win by a touchdown or more this weekend. As a general rule, I tend to pick more underdogs than favorites. However, my run on favorites this week continues here, as I am backing the Steelers -5 against the Bengals. Here is another case of a team that will try to make amends after a disappointing performance last week. The Steelers were humiliated on primetime television against the Chargers on Sunday night. The team only picked up 221 total yards of offense, with Aaron Rodgers completing just 52.6% of his passes, his lowest rate in 5 years. Rodgers is a true warrior. I firmly believe he will bounce back in a big way. Against a weak Bengals defense, he should be able to do it pretty easily. Pittsburgh will also be looking to avenge a 33-31 defeat suffered against those same Bengals earlier this year. In that game, Joe Flacco led his team to victory despite being with the team for just 9 days, a remarkable accomplishment. Cincinnati's defense has surrendered 27 points or more in each of their past 8 games. That occurred despite facing some poor offenses like the Jaguars, the Jets, and the Vikings. It doesn't get any worse than this. To make matters worse, one of their only good players, Trey Hendrickson, remains very unlikely to suit up for this match. Granted, Pittsburgh's pass defense has allowed the most passing yards in the league, but they have had stretches where they have played great, and I think they will elevate their game this Sunday at home against hated rivals. Let's go with the Steelers -5. Man, oh man, when am I going to stop picking favorites? In the Chargers-Jaguars matchup, I have no choice but to continue fading Jacksonville. In other words, I am opting for Los Angeles minus 2.5 points. If you have been following my NFL predictions this year, you know I have faded the Jaguars often recently. I felt they were a fraud earlier this year, benefiting from an absurd number of takeaways, which was not sustainable in the long run. Betting against Jacksonville has been very lucrative lately, since they have lost their past 4 games against the spread. The Jags are 1-3 since week 6. Their only victory took place in Las Vegas, and they needed overtime to get it. Trevor Lawrence continues to be a major disappointment, with 10 TDs in 9 games, along with 7 picks. Brian Thomas may have a shot to return, but it's far from a sure thing. Travis Hunter is done for the season. Their defense has been playing at a lower level compared to the first few weeks of the season. Meanwhile, after a more difficult stretch in weeks 5, 6, and 7, the Chargers' defense has been rock solid. They have given up 10 points to Minnesota, 20 points to the Titans, and 10 points to Pittsburgh. My only concern here is LA's offensive line, which has big issues. But Justin Herbert has shown multiple times that he can overcome poor OL play, and I think he can do it against a below-average team like Jacksonville. In the end, I trust Justin Herbert a lot more than Trevor Lawrence right now. I have to support the Chargers in this AFC matchup. Finally, this time I am going with an underdog by taking the Seahawks to win straight up at SoFi Stadium against the Rams. Both teams are sitting atop the NFC West division with the same 7-2 record, coupled with very similar point differentials, plus 103 and plus 98. So far this year, Seattle has a minus 4 turnover differential versus plus 7 for the Rams. It is mind-boggling that the Seahawks have been able to overcome such a disappointing turnover differential to come up with such great numbers. Turnovers tend to be more volatile. The situation could change quickly. Could you imagine how things would be if Seattle had been able to generate more takeaways? The Seahawks currently lead the league in terms of DVOA and net yards per play. In short, those metrics are suggesting that Seattle is the best team in the NFL through 10 weeks. Davante Adams suffered an oblique injury last week. Puka Nacua is banged up as well. Both wideouts will be on the field, but they are not in top form at the moment. Matthew Stafford became the first QB in NFL history to rack up 4+ TD passes and 0 interceptions on 3 straight weeks. Unfortunately, I feel like this great run is about to take a quick turn against a rock-solid Seattle defense. This unit has squandered a maximum of 22 points in all games this year except one. Here is an eye-popping stat that I discovered. During the course of Seattle's past 2 games, Sam Darnold has thrown as many TD passes as incompletions. 5. That's incredible! My biggest concern is Darnold's past history against the Rams. Last year, Darnold went 0-2 against LA compared to 14-2 against everyone else. He was sacked 12 times in 2 games against the Rams, so the Seahawks will need to protect him better in order to pull off the upset on the road this Sunday. Up next, I am taking the Cardinals plus 3 against the 49ers. After losing 5 in a row, Arizona enjoyed a lift after beating the Cowboys in Dallas on Monday Night Football. However, they were brought back to earth last week by the Seahawks, who already led 35-0 midway through the second quarter. Ouch! However, I find it hard to back the Niners as 3-point favorites on the road. San Francisco is falling apart, particularly its defense, that just cannot stop anyone after losing Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, and a few other guys. Those injuries have taken a toll, as evidenced by the fact that they have allowed 42 points to the Rams, 24 points to the Giants, and 26 points to the Texans. Last week, the Niners gave up a TD on 6 of LA's 8 possessions on offense. Is Jacoby Brissett a world beater? No, but he has shown that he can help his team putting some points on the board. He can certainly do it at home against a fading defense. Brock Purdy seems on track to return from a toe injury. Will he be a little bit rusty? Ricky Pearsall remains unlikely to play for San Francisco. Earlier this year, Arizona lost 16-15 against the Niners as Eddie Pinheiro nailed a 35-yard field goal as time expired. The Cards would love to get some payback here. I will support the Ravens as big road favorites in Cleveland, but I have little confidence in this selection. I would not place a big bet here. You just cannot trust Cleveland's offense. They are dead last in the NFL in terms of yards per play, with a 4.1 average right now. Their defense is good, but Baltimore can score some points with Lamar Jackson under center, and Derrick Henry playing much better. King Henry had a stretch of 4 consecutive games with 50 rushing yards or fewer. But since then, he has averaged 97 yards on the ground per contest. Dylan Gabriel is doing his best, but it's not enough. He owns a 1-4 record, and his 5 yards per attempt average is very poor. His supporting cast is not the best either, and he will be facing a surging defense that's been doing much better after getting many players back from injuries. As a matter of fact, Baltimore has allowed just 14.5 points per game during their last 4 games. To me, Cleveland might score a maximum of 14 points here, so we only need the Ravens to put 23 or more for this bet to win. They will be just fine doing it. Lamar is completing 70% of his passes, and he has thrown 15 touchdown passes versus just 1 interception. That's phenomenal. We have a fantastic AFC West battle on the menu as the Chiefs will take on the Broncos in Denver. KC owns a 5-4 record, whereas Denver is 8-2. The Chiefs must win this game to have a shot to capture the division title. And Andy Reid has had great success over the years following his bye week. I've got to back the Chiefs minus 3.5 points in Denver. Despite their great 8-2 record, the Broncos have picked up many non-convincing victories. They won by 3 points against Vegas, by 3 against Houston, by 1 point against the Giants, and by 2 against the Jets. Their best defensive player, Patrick Surtain, is out. Running back J.K. Dobbins suffered a mid-foot sprain. He appears unlikely to be available this weekend as well. The only team that Denver has beaten that owns a record above 500 is Philadelphia. The combined record of Denver's 8 opponents that they beat is 23, 48, and 1. If you do the math, we're talking about a 33% winning percentage. Meanwhile, the Chiefs gained a lot of momentum as the season progressed before getting stopped by the Bills a couple of weeks ago. That will make Patrick Mahomes mad and ultra motivated for this divisional battle. The Chiefs are 3rd in the league in EPA per play. Make no mistake, they are a strong team. For all of these reasons, I will go with Kansas City as 3.5 point favorites on the road against the Broncos. Oh my god, what a great duel is shaping up between the Lions and the Eagles on Sunday Night Football. Personally, I will bet Detroit to pull off the mild upset on the road. After a disappointing home loss against the Vikings, the Lions bounced back in a big way by destroying the Commanders 44-22. Detroit's offense scored points on all 8 possessions, except the last one to end the game. total yardage finished 546 to 288 in their favor. Talk about a demolition derby. Most of the talk revolves around Detroit's offense, but don't underestimate their defense. They occupy the 5th spot in the league in terms of the DVOA statistic. They are very solid. Meanwhile, once again, the Eagles were far from perfect, but still found a way to win. Last week, they left Lambeau Field with an ugly 10-7 victory. If you focus on their last 5 games, the offense has scored 21 points or fewer on 4 occasions, by deducting 7 points in Minnesota that were scored due to a pick six. The only time they exceeded that threshold was against a vulnerable Giants defense. In my mind, the Eagles have many more issues than Detroit. The Lions appear stronger, and even though Jared Goff tends to be less efficient outdoors, I think he will find a way to lead his team to victory. That's it for today. I will publish very soon a video presenting my pick on the Monday night game featuring the Cowboys traveling to Sin City to square off against the Raiders. Hit the subscribe button now so that you can benefit from my weekly NFL predictions. Meanwhile, my top call to action for you is, of course, to register for my weekly NFL Lobster Bet. That is the top wager of the week in pro football. We have earned a 14-6 record with these high-confidence betting tips, and they come with a money-back guarantee, which has not been necessary the vast majority of the time. A 70% winning percentage is pretty convincing, right? I am excited to share with you my favorite bet of the week, which concerns the Commanders-Dolphins game. Simply sign up by following the link below in the comments. I'm Professor MJ. I have amassed more than $1 million with my sports bets since 1999, and I own a PhD in statistics. It is always a pleasure to help you earning a profit in the sports betting world, so thanks for watching this video, my friend.